Find other great podcasts like this one at podmoth.network.
Working can be such a drag, but it's a necessary evil.
What better way to combat the woes of the working world than to commiserate with your fellow man?
I'm Jay.
And I'm Kay.
And we're the hosts of Fuck My Work Life, a comedy podcast where we share people's stories from the workplace.
Whether they're funny, weird, scary, or just plain messed up, they're always entertaining and may leave you thinking you don't have it so bad after all.
Available on all major podcast platforms. Give us a listen. Your sanity may just depend on it.
Hey, Twisted listeners. I'm Cindy.
And I'm Diva.
And this is Twisted Listers, a podcast about murder
and lists.
We're brought to you by the Podmoth Podcasting Network. Check out the other podcasts. And you guys might have noticed that we now have ads. We leveled up, y'all. We're officially
very exciting.
A real podcast. We're making money. We have ads on our podcast. So if you hate those ads and you don't want to deal with them and you want to get the episode 8 to 12 hours early, depending on how on top of our shit we are, you can join our Patreon at the $5 level. And you get all of the, extra bonus content, plus you get the episodes early and ad-free.
Yeah, and we're in the big time.
Yes, and you get stickers. And we have a couple new patrons who have not sent stickers to. I'm so sorry. We're going to send them to you, and I just ordered the new ones, and they're not the ones we did last time. They're the gravestone ones. So,
ooh, they're even cooler. Yeah.
So
nice.
We'll be sending those out once we get them, hopefully in the next couple of weeks. Thanks everybody for your support. We love you. And pretty exciting. So if you want to join us, it's patreon.com/twistedlisters. And this week we're doing Murders of Chicago. This was another listener request, but for a full list. And we thought it was a great list. So here we are doing it.
Yeah. And we love geography specific lists. So if you have a hometown, home region, or country that you would like to see covered, please suggest that.
Yeah,
I like that theme.
Don't hesitate. We are stoked to get suggestions.
Yeah, we like that organizing principle.
Yes, it's good, and it keeps us rich with cases. Also, thanks, Diva, for spoiling me last night for my birthday.
Yay! Oh my God, happy birthday! It's your birthday right now.
Thanks. Yes, I'm 40. It's disgusting. I don't
it's Cindy's birthday right now. We're celebrating by recording this for you.
But we went yesterday and saw an amazing furniture and design show at LACMA, and then you bought me a Marimekko mug that was way too expensive, but thank you.
No, it's fine.
And then made me a delicious dinner with pie.
We had tacos and pie. It was great.
Yeah, it was amazing. So thank you so much. And we dragged the men along, but they enjoyed themselves. So
yeah.
Anyway, shout out to you for that.
Happy Aquarius season.
Yes.
Good season.
It's our season. And all right, that all being said, let's talk about murder.
Okay. Am I first?
You are, because I chose. Yeah, right?
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, this was kind of one of the ones we didn't choose. A listener chose, but this is my
right.
So you go first.
Okay. All right. So I have a big kind of giant doozy for my second one. So this is also giant, maybe ? But it's the case of Patricia Colombo.
Oh.
And I knew nothing about this. I don't know that you'll know anything about it. It's kind of like obscure, but holy shit, what a weird, wild ride. It's one of those things where you cut, like when when you're researching a case and you catch like 3 details and you're like, all right, I'm in. This is too.
Yeah, I actually looked at this one, but I was like, it's so busy. I was like, oh, that's cool. That's the only reason I know anything about it. And then I saw you got it. And I was like,
there's like 3 weird details that caught my eye, and I was like, "Oh yeah, no, this is really weird."
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm glad.
It's a winding journey, so everyone buckle up.
Here we are.
Whew. We're gonna go back to 1976, and this technically takes place in Elk Grove, so it's like out in the suburbs, as I believe, next to. No, we're in Chicago.
Oh, duh. I was like, why are you in Sacramento, diva? Like,
No, different Elk Grove. It's a
okay.
suburb that's kind of right next to the O'Hare Airport.
Okay.
So it's out there, but it's still within the Chicago kind of.
Got it. I
think,
thought maybe it
stretch.
was one of those ones where it like went across states, but I guess not. Anyway,
No,
okay.
it goes from Illinois to.
Yeah, well, you know, it does. Okay. It does.
So in 1973, boop, 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 rewind. Patricia Colombo, or Patty, as she went at this time, she's 16. She lives with her 40-year-old dad, Frank, who is 40. Get it? Yeah, he is an auto parts salesman, and her 40-year-old mom, Mary, and her 13-year-old brother, Michael.
My people.
Yeah.
40-year-olds.
40-year-olds. Yeah, with teenagers. That could be you. So.
It's not, thank God, but yeah.
So others would claim that she kind of grew, I mean, she had a fine childhood by everyone's account, but some would claim that she was jealous and resentful over the attention they gave to Michael, which is like, get over it, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know how big of an issue that was or wasn't. Anyway, this time she's 16, she drops out of school. She steals a bunch of people's credit cards and racks up a bunch of charges, like doing credit card theft.
Wow.
And she ends up, doing crime. And she ends up getting 2 years probation for this, and her father pays off the restitution. So like pays the victims back.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So her parents are kind of bailing her out here.
Mm-hmm.
That's just a little prequel to what she gets involved in later to show that she's kind of wildin'.
She's already just wilding out. She's that kind of person, huh?
I guess. I don't know what, fucking spurs us on. At this time, she starts working at a coffee shop where she meets a pharmacist named Frank DeLuca, who's 36.
Okay.
He's also married with 5 children.
Wait, and how old is she?
16.
Whoa, okay.
Yep. Frank hires her to work at his drugstore, and they begin a sexual relationship that is obviously predatory and gross, which is why you heard a hint of question mark in the phrase sexual relationship, because it's like
there's not really another way to say that, but yeah,
it's consensual technically, but she's 16, so it's predatory,
exactly. Yeah,
it's disgusting. Yeah.
Yes.
So at some point around this time, Patricia shows her high school classmates photos of her engaging in sexual acts with Frank's dog.
What?
Which, yeah.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
That was not at all what I thought was going to come out of your mouth.
No, yeah, that took a turn.
Yeah. Okay.
So they're into stuff. They're into that. And then they're also into swinging, or rather Frank is, and he's sort of like, hey, Patricia, do this. And she's like, okay. He kind of takes her and goes swinging around with other couples. I think the 70s is a swingy time as well. He also takes sexual photos and videos of her. And it is very weird to me that she's showing these to people at school.
She's proud of this, or is it a cry for help? What is that?
The tone in the article I read was that she was proud of it, but I'm like, that's a weird.
You know how they love to hate women, even if they're children. You just gotta wonder what the tone or what their point of view is.
It wasn't help me though, because I don't know. It's hard. I don't want to victim blame too much, but Patty here gets insane.
Okay,
but obviously Frank is more to blame, obviously, in this pairing. But wow, what a couple.
Yeah, that's gnarly. Okay.
Whew.
Yeah,
it's all weird and gross right away.
Love it. Yeah. Don't love it already. Yeah.
So the following year, things are get weirder and weirder and weirder. So the following year in 77, Frank moves now 17-year-old Patricia into his family home with his wife and 5 kids.
And where are her parents? I mean, look, I was 17 at one point.
So she lies to her parents about her boyfriend. I'm not sure exactly what she tells them at this point, but they're fine with the move. And I think she kind of frames it as a regular boyfriend. You know what I mean? Not a married old one.
Not a married one that's almost their age.
Yeah. So she definitely fudges the truth quite a bit. And as far as Frank's poor wife, Marilyn, she's not about it, and she doesn't know what's really going on either, which of course she probably did know, but she supposedly didn't know.
Okay, so she's just kind of, also she could be victimized in this situation very easily. Yeah.
Frank's a dick. Yeah, no. So and she has 5 kids, so she's probably going to be, but okay, Marilyn's complicated. She'll come up later again in a way that's not that flattering to Marilyn, so just keep that.
Okay.
Keep that in mind.
Good to know. All right.
To what extent she's like chill is unclear.
Right.
So later that year, Patty here tells her parents, Frank and Mary, who again were beginning to be not stoked about all of this. Like eventually they find out who she's really living with and they're like, what the fuck?
Right.
She tells them, hey, guess what? We're breaking up. I'm ditching this guy. You're right. And I'm getting my own apartment. Can I get money for rent? And they're like, oh yeah, okay, that's great. So they give her money for rent thinking this is better than, her living with this guy.
But
so whatever ended up happening, however, is that she was lying and Frank left his wife and kids to move in with her at that apartment.
Oh shit. So her parents are now paying for her like love nest with her
Correct.
Adult married boyfriend.
Correct. Yes.
Oof, that's pretty rough.
Yeah.
That's pretty fucking rough.
That's what's happening. Yeah.
Okay.
So eventually, Patricia's dad, also named Frank, learns the truth of what the fuck is actually happening. And he responds in a way that I have to respect. He finds and beats the shit out of Frank DeLuca.
Yeah. Okay. Fair. Totally fair.
He points a rifle at his head and says, I'm going to fucking blow your head off, which, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Then he proceeds to beat him with the rifle and just say like, fuck you, I'm a dad, right?
Yeah, I mean,
which
I feel
I don't want to condone violence, but like,
no.
I don't, but I am not entirely unsympathetic to his feelings.
I don't disagree. I don't want to like promote that, but it's understandable, right, is what I'll say.
It's understandable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Not a choice
best,
everyone
would
get
make.
It. Yeah.
No. So Patty actually filed assault charges against her dad. They're clearly very mad about this. But she later withdrew them. So it kind of folds.
Oh, so, she did. Okay. So they just basically drop it. Okay.
Yes,
all right.
Yes. I think I said it was 1977 earlier. I lied. Okay. So sorry to be jumping on time, but now it's 1976 and Patricia is now 19 and she's living with her 39-year-old, still technically married boyfriend, Frank, who they plan to get married after Frank's divorce is finalized. And she's been pretty distant from her family after the previous,
the beating.
That incident. Yeah.
Yeah.
Her parents eventually kind of come around to being more accepting-ish. And she kind of like mills around with like making up with them. At some point, and I'll elaborate, I'm kind of leaving a gap here, but I'll fill in what happens here in a bit when I get to I don't want to spoil it. But basically, at some point, they come up with a sinister plan to fucking kill the parents.
Her parents. Which, like, why? Just, like, I don't understand. Yeah. Because, like, they don't it's not like they're keeping them apart. It's not like they're doing anything that can actually, like, adversely affect them.
So, spoiler alert, it's because I think Frank was very butthurt about getting beat up. And he's very, very mad. So that's part of it. The other part of it is that she thought she would get insurance payout. But in this whole, like, time period, the parents had actually written her out and, like, disowned her as far as, like, money and the will.
Oh, and she didn't know that.
She didn't get nothing. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So that, it was partially financial and partially Frank being, having his ego bruised.
Yeah, his ego and his face.
Yes, and his face.
Well.
So May 4th, 1976, Patricia and Frank DeLuca show up at the house and they severely beat her dad with a bowling trophy.
Oh, dude.
That's
fucking gnarly.
Gonna be really perhaps not what you expect. They shot him 4 times in the head. I think Frank did. And then she stabbed him with scissors almost 100 times.
So there's a lot of rage there. There's a lot of rage there. But I don't think it's really founded, but it's ragey.
No.
He was already dead.
I think so. I think that's the order.
Shots to the head. It's got to be. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. He then shot the mom, Mary, her mom, and then she stabbed and slashed her mom as well. I think it's interesting that she's doing it like kind of post-mortem. Because it's almost like, to me, it's almost like she's like, look, I'm involved. I'm doing it. But it's not the same as killing a person.
Right. But I have to say that speaks to like her capacity as a person to murder because she just watched her mother die and her reaction is to mutilate the body, essentially. Yeah.
It's
which is pretty fucking wild.
It's gnarly. Yeah. They then woke up her 13-year-old brother, Michael.
Stop it.
this poor scared little boy, and Frank shot him, I think, first, but they also beat him severely with the bowling trophy, stabbed him in the neck and chest more than 90 times.
I would like to think he was already dead, because what the fuck did he do?
Let's think that. Yeah, exactly. No, he did absolutely nothing.
I mean, none of them
he was just
did,
there.
But, yeah, but he more than like he was actively not involved. Like there wasn't even,
he's a fucking child. Like it's really gross, and just really overkill mutilating the body of your child brother. Like that takes a lot.
Yeah, there's that
is a lot.
Yeah, that's fuck her.
Yeah,
fuck both of them, but her for sure. Like because I'm worried about what's coming. So
yeah, you start out feeling bad for her in this predatory relationship, but then it's like, oh god.
Okay. Yeah.
So after killing the parents and Michael, Frank DeLuca and Patricia take her dad's Thunderbird and they ditch it. And I think what they thought was like a bad neighborhood in West Chicago, and they one detail I didn't quite get right in my research. I'm not sure if they smashed the window or if it's smashed in later, but when the car is ultimately found, it's got some damage. Cops actually discover the crime as they found the car, and they're going to go back to the house to be like, hey, Dad, Frank, did you know that your car's missing, right?
So if they hadn't smashed the car, they probably wouldn't have figured it out as quickly.
Yeah.
Theoretically, yeah.
But,
okay.
Yeah, so by the time they're found, it had been a few days, and obviously the crime scene is gruesome and bloody and disgusting, based off what I just described happening.
Right.
They note that like all their valuables and cash are still around, so it's not a robbery. The house wasn't ransacked. They also find two of the knives that were used for all the stabbing just there at the house. So they're like, oh, okay, well, here we go. Obviously, right away, they're like, hey, Patty, what's up? Like, she didn't report this or anything. She never turned up to see what happened or what's going on. When they bring her in for an interview, she is like unbothered.
She's like, oh, that happened? Like, oh, huh.
Yeah, exactly.
Ew, fuck her.
So they also note that her behavior is weird at the funeral for her like whole family. And while Frank, the boyfriend, DeLuca, is off to one area, Patty actually aggressively flirted with a cop, to the point that the other family members who hadn't yet met Mr. DeLuca actually thought that the cop might have been her boyfriend. Because they're like, they thought they looked like together, kind of like that heavy of flirting. Yeah.
I wonder what the idea behind that was. Like, what are you trying to do there? It's a very strange approach to take at your family's funeral that you're attending with your weird, like, boyfriend.
Well, you're trying to look innocent.
Yeah. That's very fucking
Flirt
weird.
With a cop. Yeah. There's no real purpose to that. That's just, I don't know, man. I don't know what's up with Patty. Like, she also continued to be mostly unbothered and calm throughout the whole funeral, was laughing and joking, except for like a 2-minute long moment where she very fakely threw herself on their coffins crying, like, ah! And then it was just like, I'm fine.
I love that you called them coffins and not caskets, by the way.
Coffins? What's the difference?
I don't know. It's just, I feel like coffin is much more gothy.
Coffins, right?
It's like, I don't know. I'm going to look it up. Coffin versus
That's what
casket.
I wrote it here in my notes. Coffin.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know. It doesn't really say. I feel like one of design.
The casket looks fancier.
Coffins are tapered at the head and foot and wider at the shoulder, whereas caskets are rectangular. So depending on if they had like
probably was a casket,
a Dracula style coffin or not. I just love that you said that because, and I'm sorry,
no, you're right,
laughing because this is really fucking horrible.
No, it's horrible.
I just have
but caskets. You're right. When you say the word casket, I picture like the kind of more funeral home, glamorous, like wooden, rectangle. Yeah, which is probably what it was. Coffin is like Dracula.
Yes. Exactly.
You know,
but anyway,
I don't want to be buried, but I would prefer a coffin, and ideally that it'd be like rusty with like nails poking out of it.
Yeah, I like that too. I want to just be cremated, burn me, or I want to be encased in lacquer. Apparently, that's a thing you can do, and it like you were telling me that, right?
Yeah,
so that's lacquer. So Diva told me this yesterday that there was. Where was she from? There was like a
Japan, I think.
Yeah, she's like very, very old, and she's like fully preserved because she was encased in lacquer, and that's what I want for me.
Okay. Yeah.
Anyway, moving on. So this,
all right.
So Patty here was putting a
throwing
scene
herself on the casket. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they had to be closed, by the way, despite the fact that they wanted an open casket funeral. They had to be closed because of all the horrific mutilation.
It's fucked up.
Yeah. Patty also tried to insist on getting the family cremated, which was against their wishes, so it didn't happen, thankfully. But that's a very classic sus thing to do, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So the police then interview a 25-year-old car salesman named Lanny Mitchell, and Lanny spills a lot of tea that is going to look very bad for Patty.
Mm-hmm.
He says that he offered Patty money to go out on a date with his friend. Date? ?
That's weird. Yeah, that's not what those are. I mean, they are called dates, actually. So okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Unclear what is meant by date, but we can imagine.
Mm-hmm.
This is a 34-year-old friend, so it's also gross.
Yeah. Although she's 19 at this point, so it's less gross because at least she's actually an adult at this point.
I
mean, I'm not. We're splitting hairs.
No, it's fine. Yeah. She does go on this date because she said she needed the money, and she kind of thinks Lanny is this criminal kind of tough guy when he's kind of not. So she tells him that she wants to have her parents killed because they don't like her boyfriend.
That's a great reason when you're an adult who doesn't live with your parents. It's never a great reason, but it's even a dumber reason because it's like, you're not even, so what?
They're not keeping you apart.
They're not doing it. Like, they just don't like it. Grow up and fucking deal with it. Like, that's life, you know?
Yeah.
Well, anyway.
So Lanny says that he'll kill them for $20,000. And spoiler alert, Lanny doesn't intend to do that. He just wants to get money and also to sleep with Patty. And he's open about this. It is gross, but thankfully he wasn't a murderer.
He's just like a general scumbag.
General gross. Yeah.
Yeah.
Other kinds of gross, but not murdery gross. So after this, Lanny says that Patty, over the span of a few months, was just like haranguing him, like calling him nonstop, saying, "When are you going to kill my parents? When are you going to kill my parents?" Like just like every day. And he was like, "Oh my God, okay." So she gives him information on their schedule. She gives him a floor plan of the house. She gives him information on valuables they had, saying you can have all this stuff. Wow. She offers him and the friend whose name is Roman that she went on the date with. She offers them both future insurance payout money that she thought she was going to get, like a cut from it.
Right. But she didn't have the money up front for them, right? She was just like, I'll pay you once it's done because I'm going to get the money for it.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
She also sleeps with both of these guys in kind of a transactional sense, saying like, I'll sleep with you if you kill my parents.
Mm-hmm.
It's all very gross. Things go back and forth. I'm cutting some stuff out here because it's just boring, but it goes back and forth of her begging them to kill her parents, argue about how they want some money up front. They're just trying to get money out of her early.
Right, before they bail on the whole thing.
Yeah, but they don't obviously ever kill anyone.
Right.
So Patty and Frank, because of Lanny's kind of confession here, Patty and Frank are both arrested on May 15th. Which is like a week after the murders. Frank is actually released 2 days later. Unclear why, for like lack of evidence, ?
Yeah, that's a little weird. Okay.
Oh God, he's a man. I don't know.
Yeah.
Patty confesses only to the solicitation charges, not to the murder charges.
Mm-hmm.
But then she says she didn't think Lanny did the murders, which I don't know why she wouldn't just pin it on him at this point.
Yeah,
she says,
the bus, girl.
Yeah, she's like, I don't think Lanny did it, but I don't know who did. There's just someone else. Then she says she was forced to solicit her parents' murder. She was forced to give Lanny all that information on her family, and she was afraid of him. And I'm like,
by Frank. Right.
What? Okay.
She starts to flip because she's the one being held and he's the one being released because they don't have anything connecting him at that point. They only have something connecting her. So she's got to figure out a way to turn the tables before she gets in trouble, essentially.
Yeah, exactly. So the other guy who was kind of solicited, the friend Roman, flips and tells the exact story that Lanny did. So there's two guys kind of saying separately the same story. And Frank is rearrested. And while Frank DeLuca is in jail this time, he confesses the murders to a fellow inmate.
Which is such a fucking... Why genius. Like, I'm glad that people do that, but I don't understand why. Like, do y'all not understand that you're talking to another criminal? They're not going to be like trustworthy and like have your back, especially if you just met them. Like, I mean, I'm glad. I hope nobody hears me and like heeds my warning. But like, what the fuck? It's so dumb.
It's strange. Yeah. No, it's just he tells them absolutely everything. Frank DeLuca here says it was all his plan. He was the one who shot the members of the family. So Patty did all the stabbings, right?
Okay. Yeah.
And he said that they staged it as if, this is fucked up, as if Patty was going to make up with her family. So her parents were probably excited of like, oh, we're going to like see you and it's going to be like a delightful reunion.
That's so messed up.
When they ambushed them and they essentially, after killing them, the family, he says that they put a few valuables in Frank's car, which I guess were stolen. They abandoned it in that neighborhood. They assumed the car would be broken into and the goods stolen, which I guess kind of sort of worked. I don't know. The car plan seems kind of half-baked to me. I don't totally get it.
Yeah, it's not. These people we're not dealing with geniuses, just.
No, but they wanted the car to be found to lead back to the crime scene, but to kind of make it look like it was someone else who then ditched the car
like some
there.
random.
Yeah. That's what they were going for. Did not work. Did not look good.
Also, like, a random person probably isn't going to like rage stab the entire family like that. Like, they have to think. They're not thinking about any of that. Like, why would some random person who's robbing the house like stab these people like 90 plus times?
And they didn't rob it enough. They didn't like stage the robbery very well at all.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
No, here I am like criticizing their murder.
I know.
Here. I'm like,
I know.
Bad job.
So bad.
But it's true. They did a bad job, and I'm glad they did.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. So he also tried to get 2 witnesses killed at some point who like had details on him. I think witnesses not to the murders, but to him like soliciting people.
Got it. Okay.
And tried to have them killed. He gave witnesses, or say the same inmates he confesses to. He then also says, "Hey, will you kill these witnesses?" And he gives them dossiers of information about the witnesses and their addresses and apartments. Who knows how he's getting all of this from jail, but he does.
Whoa.
These people have dossiers. They're like, here, I have a binder. Like
here's all the information on these. Like, wow. Okay, but that also kind of makes more sense why he told this inmate, because he has assumed that they were also like a murderer who would like do this for money instead of flipping on him.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Luckily with Lanny and with the inmate, they picked people who are like, okay, tell me everything, and they have no intention of doing the thing.
Right,
so thankfully, So the plan was actually, here's where Marilyn comes back. The plan is actually that he was going to have Marilyn, his wife, bail out the inmate so that they can go kill these witnesses. And Marilyn does. Marilyn actually comes and bails out this inmate, and Marilyn gives him $1,300 in cash. So Marilyn is like assisting in the witness murder.
Did they ever prove that she knew, or was she just doing what she was told? That's going to be the question, right?
She's definitely assisting. Whether or not she knew she was assisting, I do not know.
Right. I would like to think that she probably doesn't know, and she's just like so used to being told what to do. Yeah.
She could have been told lots of things. But of course, this guy just takes the cash and is like, bye.
Deuces. Also going to use this info to stay out of prison.
Yes.
Oh man. Good.
So about that, not an unsmart move on the inmate's part.
No, not at all.
So about a year after the murders, Patty and Frank DeLuca finally go to trial. There's tons of fucking evidence I already outlined. Just in addition to everything I already said, Patricia's hair was found on Michael. Glass fragments from a broken lamp at the house were found in the car. Their handprints and fingerprints were found all over the car. Their fingerprints are found on a blanket, on cigarette butts, all kinds of stuff in the car. It's like they've clearly fucking been in the car.
It's also like it's so stupid to like just be like trashy idiots in the car that you're trying to pin on somebody else having taken and just leaving your fucking DNA everywhere. Like, whatever.
Just like a DNA explosion. They also obviously have the testimonies of the inmates and of Lanny, like I mentioned. So it's like it's slam dunk. A jury finds them guilty in like a minute. They each got 200 to 300 years in prison.
Ooh.
So little overkill on the American justice system style justice here. Plenty of years in prison. Neither of them will ever get out. Right. Frank actually died in prison on January 4th.
Oh, this year?
A couple
wow.
A couple weeks ago. Yeah.
All right. He
was 84.
Wow. Okay.
And I I just have to say this. I don't know if it matters, but it's wild to me. This is one of the details I read where I was like, this is a weird case. 2 years after being in jail, or being sentenced in 1979, Patty was, I guess, like got an infraction or something for being involved or leading a sex trafficking / sex work ring in prison where she organized sexual encounters between guards and female inmates.
Oh, shit.
And some articles describe this as organizing orgies, which to me has quite a different tone.
Yeah, that's very different than just like...
It's unclear to what degree it was coerced or voluntary. Obviously, the word orgy implies like, woo, everyone's having a great time, right?
I mean, yeah, not necessarily,
I think this was
but yeah.
Probably more of like a sex work arrangement than it was a quote unquote orgy, but that's what some places call it. Also, orgy implies they're all doing it at once, which I do not think was the case.
Yeah, it's a weird use of the word orgy unless there was actually like multiple people all together.
I think it's just to sensationalize it. I think it was more sex work kind of type of arrangement.
Mm-hmm.
But still, holy shit, that's a wild thing to do.
Yeah.
To organize. She was the organizer. And apparently, like leading officials of the prison she was at, including the warden, had to resign for being implicated in the scandal. I mean,
that's not surprising. Wardens are generally pieces of shit, so I'm not like super surprised. But like, it's kind of
holy
cool
shit,
got caught. Yeah, wow.
But also, she's wild and she just won't stop. Like when she
can't stop, won't stop.
When she gets to prison, she's like woo woo woo.
God damn, dude.
So she rested her time in prison besides a lot of infractions, which I never like report those because it's like kind of who cares? That could be like the stupidest shit with prison. Right. The rest of her time has been less eventful. She's now 67 and having been in prison since 1977, she is Illinois' actually longest running female inmate. Oh wow.
A lot of really good distinctions for her. She should be proud.
Oof, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. This is me. This is getting too far in the weeds here, but like part of me feels like, how did a 16-year-old girl get so kind of what's the word to say this politely? I don't know. Over sexually interested in sex. You know what I mean? Like,
wait, over what?
Like sexually like over sexually active in a way, or like what's the word? Like, I don't want to judge her because lots of teenagers are sexually active, but it seems like she's got like a thing about it, like she's really into sex stuff.
Yeah, and like using it for power. Something must have happened.
Yeah,
like, I don't want to say something must have happened, but something could have happened that's like not reported, that she's never talked about, that made her want to use sexuality to like have power. I don't know.
That's what I mean. It's not just sex. It's like using it in a weird way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I hope she got help. And, I mean, probably not because our prisons are terrible, but
yeah, doesn't sound like it. She's having like, sex trafficking rings,
She her rest of her time was fine. She got like degrees and stuff. And so
maybe she got it together. I don't know. That's crazy though.
Yeah. It's a weird story.
So wild. The dog thing, I just was like, excuse me.
The dog, yeah. It's gross. The whole thing is gross.
It's always so complicated because when the women in these cases start out so young and they're obviously being manipulated and
start out as a child.
Yeah, it's really complicated to really know. It's hard for me to have like a fully formed opinion on this because it's a very complicated and nuanced thing, because it's like they're obviously a victim, but also what the fuck,
Yeah,
I don't know.
It's like the Jasmine Richardson, or like there's plenty of like teen girls who do horrific shit, and you're like, I want to feel bad for you because you're a literal child, but also, whoa, like
I cannot feel bad for Jasmine Richardson. I just can't.
No.
Like, she is like my weird one exception where I'm like, I think that you knew I think she was in control the whole time. That's my personal feeling.
Yeah.
Maybe
there's definitely a spectrum of the teen killers where you feel most of the time more bad for them than anything else. But yeah, there are those rare Jasmine Richardson style exceptions of like, oof.
Yeah, she and Carla Homolka, which weirdly are both Canadian. Maybe I just have a grudge against Canadian women. I don't. I'm kidding. Anyway, all right. Wow, okay. That's a fucked up ass case.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to do the case of William Balfour, and I'm going to start by talking about J-HUD, Jennifer Hudson. which
Okay.
if you know the case, you'll know why. And if you don't know the case, that's probably a weird, also like another left turn early on. So Jennifer Hudson was born September 12th, 1981 in Chicago. She grew up in the Englewood neighborhood, which is on the south side of Chicago. It is a rough ass neighborhood and still is to this day, definitely was when she was growing up. And a lot of this is due to redlining, steering, and white flight.
Yep.
So redlining is when people try to move into a neighborhood and loan companies, like mortgage loan companies, like won't give them money for the house they want to move into because they don't want their kind in the neighborhood. So it's basically assigning values to certain areas and then using those to keep certain types of people out. It's a very racist practice. It's also very classist, so it has a lot of problems. It creates a lot of fucking problems. And white flight occurred in Chicago. There's actually a really good, I forget if it's like 48 hours or it wouldn't be 48 hours, 60 minutes, one of those ones that has time in the title, where they did like a big expose on the white flight in Chicago in like the 70s and 80s. And it showed like people, they would interview white people, like, why are you moving out of this neighborhood? And they're like, oh, I think the quality of life has like gone down. The schools aren't as good. And what they're really saying is Black people moved in. And they actually, these reporters looked at like test scores in the schools before and after, and they were like exactly the same. Everything, crime rates were exactly the same. It was just this racist viewpoint of
sometimes they just say it. Sometimes I've seen old interviews where they just say it is Black people.
Yeah. Some people will be honest, but a lot of them, they try to like make themselves feel better about their racism by saying like, well, I feel like the neighborhood's gone downhill. And it's like, what you're saying is that it's not all white people anymore. So anyway, it was bad enough in Chicago that there have been like exposés on it, on news, shows about this.
There's a really good book, by the way, about redlining called The Color of Law that I really want to read.
Ooh, I bet it's really good. Yeah. Technically now redlining is illegal, but it helped shape most major cities, including Los Angeles and definitely including Chicago. But in any case, so they live in Englewood. It's with an E, Englewood, and it's a bad area. It's where the people in charge allowed poor people and people of color to move rather than allowing them in with the whites, which is fucked. Her mother, Darnell Donnerson, was a wonderful mother to Jennifer and her two siblings. She had a brother named Jason and a sister named Julia. I believe they were both older. I know Julia was, I think Jason also was, and Jennifer was the baby of the family. They didn't know their father until Jennifer was a teen, when she reconnected with him, and he actually lived with the family until his death in the early 2000s, I believe. So I couldn't find, I tried to find more information on that, like how he died, why they reconnected, what the deal was, but there's just not a lot of information. So like I said, Jennifer lived in a bad part of town, but obviously for anybody who knows who she is, which is probably everybody, she had big dreams and a really supportive family. So she followed her dreams and tried out for American Idol, earning a spot on the third season in 2004. Now, I watched American Idol. I'm not going to lie. I watched the first 3 or 4 seasons, including the one that J-Hud was on.
Yes.
And I never voted. I never fucking voted because that was too far for me. But I enjoyed the show. Is it still on? I don't even know.
Yeah, it's with all kinds of weird judges now, but yeah.
Okay, yeah. So it was Simon Cowell was one of the original judges. I think Paula Abdul, Randy, what's his name? Randy? I want to say Jackson.
Is it Randy no. Randy something. I can. I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Randy Jackson's another famous.
Randy the judge.
Yeah, Randy. it's a no for me, dog.
It's a no for me, dog. Randy.
No for me, dog. Anyway, so the show was wildly popular in the year that Jennifer Hudson was on. This was back when winning would actually do something for you. Yes. What's the woman from the first season that won?
Kelly Clarkson.
Everybody knows.
You also got Carrie Underwood. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, we have quite a few. The dude that was the rocker, and then he had that band. Anyway, Chris Daughtry, yeah. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so American Idol was at that point producing stars. At this point now, it's you win and then nothing really happens.
No, you get a fucking Taco Bell gift card and they're go home.
Yeah, they're good job. Get the fuck out of here. Thanks for making us money. Yeah. Anyway, so she was a fan favorite. She was one of my favorites too. But ultimately, she was voted off after making the top 7. Which is shocking to me. I forgot that she went so early because I think just in many other people's minds, she made it much farther because in our hearts, she did.
Can I just interject here as a nerd about this? Okay, American Idol in the early-ish seasons was so profoundly racist and homophobic.
Yes.
And Simon Cowell especially would say he is a piece of shit, but he would say the most horrific shit to people.
Mm-hmm.
And they were so racist to Jennifer Hudson.
Yes.
And if you go back on like YouTube, I don't know if they have the full thing with all their comments, but if you watch her original audition, she is like fucking sensational. Like, obviously, she sings, I forget what she sings, but like she's insane. She's insanely talented right away and sings this huge big song. And they're just like, we don't like that you're black though. Like,
and you're not super skinny.
Yeah, they criticize her look, her appearance, and it's like really disgusting. And the fact also, this still happens. I like still watch The Voice sometimes, but I can't watch to the end because what happens in all these singing competitions, American Idol's the same way, and The Voice, is when you get to the part where America votes, because The Voice, it happens later. But anyway, when you get to the part where America votes, they vote all the insanely talented black people out and they keep all the 13-year-old country pop stars in, and like it just breaks my brain. And this was one of the earliest incidents of that where I remember being like, but Jennifer Hudson's objectively the most talented person on this season. And it just broke my brain that because America is fucking racist. It has nothing to do with singing talent. She was the best person on that season.
She absolutely was. But she is a black woman who's not a size 2, who had a look that wasn't milquetoast palatable American white culture.
Yes.
So she was voted off. But you know what she did? For most people, and including the winners at this point, that's the end of their 15 minutes of fame. But in response to being voted off, she went ahead and got a role in the 2006 movie Dreamgirls, got nominated for and won a motherfucking Oscar. So she was like, hi, I'm going to just go ahead and be unstoppable. Fuck all y'all. So she performed with Beyonce and outshined Beyonce. Jennifer Hudson outshined Beyonce. Okay?
Oh, yeah.
And she got this award. So good for her. I think it's fucking amazing. Meanwhile, her family is still back living in her childhood home. Her sister Julia had moved out for a while and had a relationship with a man named Gregory King. This relationship produced a son, Julian, who mostly lived with Julia, but definitely had a strong relationship with his father as well. Julia and Julian lived with Julia's mother, Darnell, as well as with their brother, Jason. So Jennifer's entire family is basically living together. And she's the only one not still living in the house because she's out in California doing her thing. Now, Jennifer's brother, Jason, had been in trouble a few times. He was a known heroin dealer, which is a bummer. And in fact, at one point, pretty recently before this all goes down, he'd been shot in the leg during a home invasion. Because that's a thing that happens, to drug dealers. When I sold pot in like high school, my house got broken into. I was never home.
Oh, yeah.
But like,
it definitely makes you a target.
Yeah, and I only sold weed, so it wasn't even like, But anyway, so he, got shot and never got it looked at. He never went to the hospital. I don't know if the bullet like went clear through his leg or what, but as a result, he had a pretty gnarly limp. He gained a lot of weight. He had to walk with a cane. So kind of a bad situation. It was rumored that at this point, he was still having people come by the house to buy drugs, which is a bummer because there's like, a little kid living there, but it is what it is. So Jennifer, Julia, and Jason all went to school in the area their entire lives. And one of the other classmates who I think was in Jennifer's class, and so a little bit younger than Julia, was a man named William Balfour. He had known the Hudson family peripherally for his entire life, but they definitely were not close. Like none of them were friends. But somehow in around 2006, he and Julia reconnected and started dating. So this was a whirlwind love affair, and William swept her off her feet, which is weird because he was a total piece of shit. Since he was a young kid, he'd been in trouble a lot of times, going in and out of juvie, seemingly for a lot of car thefts, which, like, whatever, again, it's not a great area. People are doing what they're doing. But he also had a bunch of violent crimes against him, including an attempted murder that he, did something like 7 years for. Okay. And he's in his mid-20s at this point. So pretty much as soon as he could go to adult prison, he fucking went. And again, he was in and out before that too. He was also into drug dealing. He basically made his money any way that he could that didn't involve an actual job.
Right.
So again, this is one of the roughest areas in Chicago. So it's not like Julia wasn't familiar with this lifestyle, but her family was still surprised that she fell for William. And later, Jennifer would say that she never liked him in school and especially did not like the way that he treated Julia. And so none of the family was supportive when they got married, which they did. So William and Julia get married. The family is not stoked on it. He moved in with the family and filled his role as husband and father, which for a while seemed okay, right?
Okay.
Then shit started going sideways, shockingly. I'm sure you didn't expect that, right?
Yeah.
So William was super fucking jealous, and he was jealous of Julian. So he would get on Julia about everything, like what clothes she wore, if she was wearing makeup, who she was going out with, checking her phone. But he would also get upset if Julian showed affection to Julia. Now, Julian was 5 years old when William and Julia got married. And so
I'm like, this is a child.
A 5-year-old. And so he was looking up to William. And William, despite whatever he may later have said, clearly did not love or even like this 5-year-old and found him to be kind of his competition for Julia's love.
That's
he would actually
sick. That's weird.
Dude, he would tell Julian, get off my wife, if he would like give his mom a kiss.
Ew.
Yeah. Also, like, why are you sexualizing the kid, the relationship? Like, what the fuck? You know what I mean?
It's all kinds of wrong. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, the ages of like 5 to 7 are peak snuggle time for kids. So, like, to kind of like deny the mother the experience of that with her, and to try to deny the child the experience of that is really fucked up. And you know, if he's acting this way with a young child, like, I can't imagine his jealousy in other ways. You know, it had to be really fucking bad.
Yeah, really out of control. And it's kind of also adultifying this kid in a really gross way.
Yeah, exactly. Everything about this, it's twisted on like so many fucking levels. So obviously things deteriorated very quickly. Julia wanted out of the relationship after only a few months of marriage. They would split up and get back together over and over, with Darnell eventually kicking William out of the house. She did this after he threatened to kill the family for like the 50th time. They would get in a fight. Julia would be like, I want to break up. And he'd be like, if you leave me, I'm going to kill your whole fucking family. Over and over and over.
Oh, God. Oh, my God.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. He told her, you'll be the last to die. I'll kill your whole family first. And Darnell was like, absolutely fucking not. Get the fuck out of my house. So she kicks him out of the house. Lucky for him, he had at least 2 girlfriends he could fall back on for a place to stay. So this guy is so jealous that he cannot let this child kiss his mother, but he's got 2 other fucking girlfriends, right?
Yeah, and he has to be so possessive of, I'm sure, each of those girlfriends, but yet you get 3? What kind of patriarchal hell is this? Like,
right? He's just a piece of shit. He's just,
what the fuck?
Yeah. And like, even after he got kicked out, he and Julia continued a sexual relationship with which on her end, no fucking judgment whatsoever. Like, breaking up is hard. I'm sure this guy was manipulative. You know what I mean? Like, but eventually she tried to actually break away from him and possibly even started dating another man from work. I say possibly because I could not verify whether or not this is true, only that William was convinced that it was true, right?
Okay. Yeah, possibly.
So, yes. When William found out about this alleged guy from work, he told multiple friends, multiple people, that he was going to, quote, fuck up Julia and her new man. And also talked about killing her entire family again.
Go be with your 2 girlfriends, asshole. Like,
he was. One of these girlfriends was a woman named Shanta Cathy, who at first had no idea he was married because he was staying at her house 4 to 5 nights per week. And anytime he wasn't there, it was like, oh, my car broke down. I'm stuck with friends. So she thought they were like living together in an exclusive relationship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, she found out obviously that he was married, and he would even tell her like, oh, I'm going to kill this whole fucking family. And she stayed with him because she later said she was in love with him. She was also very young, whatever. Anyway, I know when you hate, it takes forever to get to the murder. So here we go. I don't want to talk.
No, I'm busy hating this guy already.
I know, it's really easy. So on October 24th, 2008, Julia and William had been together in the morning, I think at her house, and he had come by potentially to say happy birthday to her. When he arrived, he saw balloons on her doorstep and immediately thought they were from another man. And once again, I've read that they were, but I've also read that they were a gift from Jennifer, who was out in California, you know, shooting a movie, being a fucking singer, living her life, right? But whatever, William immediately was like, there's balloons at your door. They're from another man. You're a fucking whore. I hate you. Right? So they start arguing and they leave together in Julia's car. I don't know where she dropped him off, but she went to work. And around 10 a.m., William made his way back to the Donnerson Hudson home. He knocked on the door and then shot a bullet through the front door. He then entered the home and shot Jason Hudson to death while he sat in the living room in a chair, because obviously he had mobility issues. Darnell came down the stairs frantic, and he shot her as well. The gun he used was actually Jason's own Sig Sauer, which he had stolen from him a few weeks earlier, which is why he was no longer actually allowed to come in the house. So they kicked him out of living in the house, and then they kicked him out of even being able to come inside because he was a thief. When Julia arrived home from work, she found her mother's body in the front room. She ran screaming from the home and went to her neighbor's house, where she had them check on her brother and son. The neighbor came back and said Jason too was shot to death, but that Julian was nowhere to be found. Together, they called the police, and an Amber Alert was sent out for Julian, who was believed to be in Jason's white SUV, which had been stolen from the residence. Meanwhile, the bodies were taken from the home, and Julia was interviewed. The first name to come to mind was William. Police quickly picked him up, and he immediately had an alibi. He told them that he was at Shanta Cathy's house all day. The police then picked her up, and she also said he'd been at her house from about 10 a.m. to later in the day. They brought them both back to the station, interviewed them separately, and pretty quickly Shanta cracked. She couldn't fucking hang.
Yeah.
She said that he told her he had shot both Jason and Darnell, but then when she asked about Julian, she said he was outside playing and didn't see anything that happened. Do we believe that, Diva?
I know what happened, so no.
No, we do not. Yeah, I know. She said he came over around 12:30, sorry, seemed really agitated, had been on his phone most of the day, started watching TV at her house. And this next bit is so fucking infuriating to me. Just before arriving home, which William knew when that would be, Julia received a text from him basically asking for a hookup later that night. So after he'd killed her entire family, while at his other girlfriend's house, he texts her asking for a booty call. Yeah. So the police hold him for 48 hours, then hold him for possible parole violations, because they know he fucking did it, but they just don't have enough to charge him yet. And they also needed to find Julian. And very sadly, on October 27th, 3 days after they started looking for him, they found him. A woman called in an SUV that matched the description of the one on the Amber Alert. And remember, this was already national news thanks to J. Hud's involvement. Like, it absolutely would not give it. Yeah. Nobody would have cared about these people if it wasn't her family. But they find the SUV. It would
have been small, local news maybe, but
at best. Like, black people in a bad neighborhood got murdered. Like, who cares? Like, let's just be real. Nobody would have given a shit. But luckily, she was involved, so they did give a shit. So they find the SUV, they open the door, and very sadly, the first thing they see in the back is a tiny hand sticking out from under a fucking shower curtain. They discover the body of 7-year-old Julian King, who had been shot in the head 3 times. Police then searched the area and found the Sig Sauer in the bushes about a quarter mile from the vehicle. So, pretty fucking gnarly. So at this point, they do arrest William, and they begin digging in to kind of the case. In addition to Shanta's testimony, many of William's associates came forward and spoke about how not only had they heard him talk about killing the family, but on the day of the murders, many had said he called them asking for an alibi, saying that if anybody asked, he had been, quote, out west all day. They also used his cell phone activity to trace his movements, which perfectly matched up with the timing of the murders, the location of the stolen car and Julia's body, and then the time that Shanta said he actually showed up at her house. They tested his clothing for gunshot residue, but they didn't find any. But Shanta did say that he had come to her house in the morning wearing one set of clothing, and then when he came back, he was wearing something else. So, he probably just ditched the clothes. Yeah. So all of this evidence made so enough of it. I'm just like, ugh. So they made a case. They went to trial. He was found guilty of all 3 murders. He maintained that he never killed Julian. Like, this piece of shit motherfucker can't even admit to killing this child. So he lied even to the person he told about the other murders. He couldn't even admit to what he did. Like, that's how much of a coward this person is.
Yeah, you're not succeeding and you're gaslighting the world. Like, really, who else did it then?
Yeah, I killed the other 2, but not him. Like, get the fuck out of here. Yeah,
sure.
So he later said he was completely innocent and that it was a setup by the cops due to the pressure on them to solve the case since it was Jennifer Hudson's family. And it's like, listen, I understand that happens, but like, no, that's not what happened here, clearly. During the trial, Jennifer and Julia both had to testify and both attended all 11 days of the trial, sitting through horrifying photos of their family that were shown, all of their bodies. They both sobbed
God.
openly, both on the stand and in the audience, but they attended every single day, which, like, I cannot imagine doing that.
Horrible.
You know?
That's her mom, you know, too.
It's
like
her nephew, it's her mom, it's her
nephew.
brother. Like, it's
Ugh.
fucked. So William gave a statement at his sentencing. This is so fucked. Saying that he loved Julian and still did, and that he feels terrible for him. Yeah.
Ugh.
It's
Fuck
just like,
off,
dude,
guy.
like, knock it off. Like,
Fuck off,
he's
William.
obsessed. That you can tell that the little bit of guilt that is this piece of shit is able to feel is surrounding murdering that child. And he's such a fucking, like just not human that he can't admit it. He has to just deny it because he feels so bad, which is so fucked. So because of his past convictions, he was automatically given life without parole. And because of this, Jennifer and Julia declined giving impact statements because he already got the maximum sentence.
Yeah.
That being said, Gregory King, Julian's father, did give a statement, and it's pretty fucking heart-wrenching. He talks about missing picking him up from the school bus, going on field trips with him, spending time with him and his other children. He talks about how William took all of that from him and denied his other children a life with their brother, and it's really fucked up. A few years after the verdict, William did an interview with ABC News, which, like, why are they giving this guy a voice? In it, he proclaimed his innocence again. And he said whoever killed Julian, which he's really stuck on, was a heartless person. And it's like, yeah, dude, you are. Like, what are you doing?
It's like how a narcissist, like, attempts to deflect guilt, but it's like...
Exactly.
God.
You're like, just stop. So to end this fucked up story, I want to talk about what the judge said when he sentenced this piece of shit, because I think it's really well put. And fucking sad. He said, quote, you have the heart of an Arctic night. Your soul is as barren as dark space. To tell us in open court that you loved that child is an insult to all of us. There's no doubt in my mind that Julian looked up to you. There's no doubt in my mind he looked up to you as you were putting bullets into his head. I just hope his terror was short-lived. God, that gets me every fucking time.
That's horrible.
Just like, Ollie is 7, you know? Like, to think about, like, the fear.
And this is his dad figure, too.
Exactly. And he just... So, anyway, this guy is just the biggest piece of shit alive. Fuck him. And I'm really glad that he's in prison. So, yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's fucked up. And no, that's children screaming outside. Yeah, I remember also, like, because knowing Jennifer Hudson at this point, obviously, and like being so riveted on the news because they found her brother and mom first, right? And then there was this couple of days period of like putting out all the, you know, things of like, have you seen this little boy? And like, I just remember everyone being like desperately like, we have to find her nephew, you know, like the little boy. And again, it's like you don't want to value them only because of their relationship to Jennifer, but like that's why it was such big news. But I remember just like that weird few days of like, and when they found him, it was just like so heartbreaking.
Well, the weird thing was that, like, even though, because they had the girlfriend's testimony or like statement like early on, and even in that statement, he said he didn't hurt the kid and he admitted to killing the 2 adults. So I think that created like a false sense of like hope that the child might actually be found, that maybe he saw what happened and like ran away, you know, because even in the person he confessed to, he didn't tell the full truth because he was so ashamed of what he did. And so it created this like frantic need to find this child and the hope that he was alive. And that's just like insult to injury, in my opinion, that he didn't just admit what he did, because it would have saved that time, that effort, that pain, that hope, you know, and ultimately that disappointment. So pretty fucked up case.
It's horrible.
really fucking horrible. I know that Jennifer and Julia have maintained a close relationship since then. I know that Julia's like walked red carpets with her. So I think that they've attempted to support each other. They did start like some sort of fund that's like the Hudson King Fund in Julian's name. Gregory King also in his statement thanked the Hudson family for continuing to like support him and extend love to him. So I think that that's really nice that even though he and Julia were no longer together, that they've found a way to kind of support each other through this, because I think that's not always what happens.
The family.
So yeah.
Oh,
so there it is.
It's horrible. And fuck Simon Cowell as well.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, also fuck that guy. Yeah, but I'm really glad that Jennifer Hudson was able to become the star that she should be. You know?
And I think success stories like from people who are not wealthy and then become successful and famous are, especially now, super fucking rare. So it's really special when that has happened.
But also we have to be careful not to frame it with like, well, see, if you work hard, it can happen, because that's actually not the truth. Like,
no, I mean, the whole point is how rare it is horrible.
Yeah.
Like,
because the system is set up to keep that from happening. And then when it does, people then use the system to be like, well, see, you just have to pull yourself up by your bootstraps.
Exactly.
Like, no, this is honestly like, it's hard work, it's talent, but it's also just luck, straight up. And I'm not calling it luck because she doesn't deserve it. I'm calling it luck that she made it through this system that does everything to keep people like her from becoming what they can be, you know?
Yeah, all it takes is a few people opening doors like in the right time, and like a bajillion people don't get that. You know?
Yeah.
So
it's fucked. So anyway, there they are. There's the two for today. Thanks everybody for listening. God damn, yeah.
Chicago.
Yeah, Chicago. We'll be back in a couple days with 2 more uplifting tales. Hope everybody's having a great week, despite these stories probably bringing you down a little bit. Thanks for listening. We love you. We appreciate the support. And once again, if you want to join us on Patreon to avoid the ads, patreon.com/twistedlisters. You know where to find us on all social media. Hoping to get a Twitter up and running soon, because God knows we'll pay a lot of attention to that.
Oh gosh, I cannot tweet. Don't make me tweet.
It's okay, I'll figure it out. I'll just tweet fucking news articles about crime. It'll be great.
Okay.
Anyway, thanks everybody for listening, and until the next one,
stay
off our...
list.
Yeah.